Imagine walking down the bustling streets of ancient Athens, a city-state at the height of its power and glory. The year is 469 BC, and the sun is shining brightly, casting its light on the white marble buildings and the people going about their daily lives. You hear the melodic sounds of Greek being spoken everywhere around you and feel the energy of a society that values democracy, arts and culture, and above all, freedom. This is the setting in which one of the greatest philosophers of all time was born. His name was Socrates. He was born into a humble family, the son of a stonemason and a midwife. Life in Athens during the Golden Age was filled with opportunities for those who were willing to seize them. And this was certainly true for Socrates, who grew up in an era when Athens was at the height of its power and glory. The city-state was a hub of intellectual and cultural activity. And Socrates was fortunate to be born in a time when Athens was at the forefront of political, social, and philosophical thought. Socrates didn't have much money, but he had something far more valuable: a thirst for knowledge and a desire to make the world a better place. He was a short, stout man with a big head, prominent eyes, and a long neck. He dressed simply in a short tunic and sandals, and his beard was always neatly trimmed. He lived a modest life, far from the luxuries and excesses of the wealthy Athenians, and was known for his humility and his dedication to his craft. Despite his lack of material possessions, Socrates was rich in wisdom and insight, and he was respected by many of the leading thinkers and politicians of the day. He was a soldier in the Athenian army and fought bravely in many battles. But it was his courage and leadership on the battlefield that really set him apart. In the Battle of Potidæa, for example, when the Athenians were outnumbered and outgunned by their Spartan opponents, Socrates rallied his fellow soldiers and led a surprise attack that turned the tide of battle. His bravery and strategic thinking helped the Athenians to emerge victorious, and he was celebrated as a hero. But despite his many accomplishments and the respect of his peers, Socrates remained humble and unassuming. He never sought power or glory for himself, and he was content to live a simple life in service to his country and his fellow citizens. It was this combination of humility, courage, and wisdom that made Socrates such an influential figure in ancient Athens. He was a role model for the young people of the city, and he inspired them to be their best selves. Many of the brightest minds of the age, including Plato and Xenophon, became his students and followed his teachings. They would sit at his feet and listen to him talk about the nature of the universe, the purpose of life, and the meaning of happiness. Socrates was a patient and understanding teacher, and he was able to make complex ideas easy to understand. He used stories, jokes, and examples to illustrate his points, and he encouraged his students to ask questions and challenge his ideas. This Socratic method, as it came to be known, was revolutionary in its day, and it laid the foundation for Western philosophy. The streets of Athens were filled with the sound of young men eager to learn from their revered teacher. They would gather around him and listen intently, as he spoke about topics that had never been discussed before. The youth of Athens were drawn to Socrates because of his unconventional approach to life and his ability to make even the most complex ideas seem simple. He was not like the other philosophers of his day who studied the nature of the universe and the laws of the cosmos. Instead, Socrates focused on the here and now, on the human condition and the search for meaning in a chaotic world. He taught them that the unexamined life is not worth living, and that the pursuit of knowledge and self-improvement should be the ultimate goal of every human being. The young people of Athens loved hearing these messages because they were looking for guidance in a rapidly changing world. The Golden Age of Athens had brought unprecedented prosperity and power, but it had also brought new challenges and responsibilities. The young people of Athens were eager to learn how to live a good life in a time of great change and uncertainty, and Socrates was the perfect teacher for them. He was a man who had faced his own demons and come out stronger on the other side. He had been a soldier and a leader, and he had seen the horrors of war firsthand. But he had not let these experiences define him. Instead, he had used them to shape him into the wise and compassionate philosopher he was today. But Socrates didn't just talk about abstract ideas. He was a man of action who believed that philosophy should be put into practice. He taught his students that the pursuit of knowledge should not be a passive endeavor, but an active one. He challenged them to question everything they had been told and to seek out the truth for themselves. He was not afraid to speak his mind, even when it was unpopular to do so. He was a staunch defender of democracy, and he believed that every citizen had a duty to participate in public life. He was also a champion of the oppressed, and he spoke out against injustice and inequality whenever he saw it. His students loved him for his passion and his commitment to justice. He was not content to sit on the sidelines while the world went by. He was a man who believed that every person had the potential to be great, and he spent his life helping others to realize their potential. He was a true inspiration to the young people of Athens, and they followed him eagerly wherever he went. His impact on the youth of Athens was so profound that they built a bronze statue in his honor, which was placed in the center of the agora, the main marketplace of the city. The statue was a testament to the respect and admiration that the Athenians had for Socrates and his contributions to their society. Even his enemies had to admit that he was a force to be reckoned with. The politicians and generals of Athens knew that Socrates had a way of making people think differently, and they feared that he might turn the citizens against them. In fact, Socrates' teachings were seen as a threat to the established order, and he was put on trial for corrupting the youth of Athens. But Socrates did not back down. He defended himself against the charges, and he continued to teach until his death. Even in the face of adversity, Socrates remained steadfast in his commitment to wisdom and truth. Although Socrates never wrote anything down, we know about him thanks to his student, Plato, who recorded his teachings and made them available to future generations. The most famous student of Socrates was none other than Plato, who went on to become one of the most influential philosophers of all time. Plato founded the Academy, the first institution of higher learning in the Western world, and he continued to develop the Socratic method of teaching. Other notable students of Socrates included Xenophon, who wrote a number of historical and philosophical works, and Antisthenes, who was the founder of the Cynic school of philosophy. Overall, Socrates' impact on the development of Western philosophy cannot be overstated. His ideas and teachings have had a profound influence on the way we think about the world and our place in it. Even today, his words are as relevant as ever, and his legacy continues to inspire people all over the world. In 404 BCE, the once great Athenian Empire was brought low by a coalition of its former allies, who had grown tired of Athenian hegemony. Over the next few years, the democracy, which had been the envy of the ancient world, was replaced by an oligarchy. The Council of 400, an assembly of elite Athenians, took control of the city and governed with an iron fist, and among them were two of Athens' most respected elder statesmen, Pericles and Cimon. Both men had played instrumental roles in building Athens into a cultural and political powerhouse. But now both were exiled from the city. With the rise of these hardline oligarchs, anyone who was suspected of sympathizing with the democracy or who posed any threat to the new regime was vulnerable, and no one was safe from accusation or exile. And soon one of the most prominent Athenians would be added to the list of suspects: Socrates, the gadfly of Athens. While Socrates was never a politician, he was well known throughout the city for his sharp intellect and willingness to engage anyone in philosophical debate. His methods often involved exposing the inconsistencies in people's beliefs, and he had made many powerful enemies over the years. Some thought him arrogant and unbearably critical, while others viewed him as a danger to the traditional values and customs of Athens. Now, as the oligarchs cracked down on dissent and searched for ways to strengthen their control over the city, they needed a scapegoat, someone who could be made an example of, so that others would think twice before questioning authority. And unfortunately for Socrates, they found the perfect candidate. A group of politicians known as the 300 brought charges against him, accusing him of impiety and corrupting the youth. And if true, it could mean only one punishment: death. But in reality, the charges were nothing more than an attempt to discredit Socrates and silence his criticisms of the oligarchy. When the time came for his trial, Socrates knew he was doomed. The jury had already been swayed by his accusers, and there was no hope of a fair trial. Accompanied by some of his closest friends, including the philosopher Plato, who was only a teenager at the time. Standing before the jury, Socrates faced his accusers and listened as they read the charges against him. He had corrupted the youth by suggesting that the many were as good as the few, and that the Athenians should care more about wisdom and virtue than wealth and power. He also claimed that Socrates was impious, saying that he did not believe in the gods of Athens. In short, he was everything the oligarchs wanted to see less of in Athens. When given the opportunity to speak in his own defense, Socrates could have pleaded for mercy or tried to explain his philosophy. Instead, he chose to go all in, declaring, "I say that no man who is a true philosopher ever dies, but all live either in fame or in infamy with the whole world, and to sift them and test them by discussion and cross-examination. For the unexamined life, that which is unexamined, is not worth living." And with that, Socrates essentially gave up his chance at freedom. But when the jury left to deliberate, something interesting happened. One of the jurors returned to the courtroom and told Plato that he agreed with Socrates and thought he should be acquitted. But unfortunately, he was just one vote, and it wasn't enough. The jury found Socrates guilty of impiety and corrupting the youth. He was given the option to suggest a punishment, and in return, the court would guarantee it. Realizing that his fate was sealed, Socrates suggested a fine, thinking it would be reasonable. After all, he had a wife and several children to support, but the jury felt no pity for him. They set his fine at 100 talents, an impossibly large amount of money, knowing full well that he would never be able to pay it. The decision was unanimous and final. The only thing that remained was for Socrates to drink a cup of poison, a slow-acting hemlock that would bring about a horrible death. Knowing what was coming, Socrates asked if he could be put to death in his home instead. The court agreed, and he was allowed to prepare himself. So, with his family by his side, Socrates drank the cup. When he first drank the poison, his body reacted violently, shaking violently as his eyes rolled back in his head. Then, slowly but surely, the poison began to take effect, and as it spread throughout his body, Socrates began to feel a numbness in his legs. He sat down, still surrounded by his loved ones, and explained that the poison was taking a long time to work. Then, after some more shaking, he lost consciousness and his heart stopped beating. Socrates was dead. His student Plato was devastated. He wrote, "Then, when we heard this, we wept and stayed the night with him." "Yes," I said, "my dear sir, he died very bravely." His disciples were weeping bitterly, but he was the bravest of them all, far beyond any one of us. He said to me, "Do you weep because you are sorry for yourself or for your friend?" I answered, "For myself, sir, I am not sorry, nor do I reproach myself, but I weep for you, because you will feel sorrow and anger and indignation at all those who are doing you an injustice." He said, "There is no occasion for tears, my dear Plato, nor do I want you to weep for me, but only to take care of yourself. Are you going to be like me, my dear sir?" I answered, "Yes, if I can help it." He said, "That is what you should say. Be angry and do not feel sorrow. You must not feel sorry for yourself or reproach others. This is a disgrace to the city of the Athenians and to the Hellenes that they kill you, a man who has done them so much good and has never done anything evil, and that they have condemned you without any just grounds for condemnation. But do you feel sorrow or shame or humiliation? Is there no other way? For you could easily escape from this place, and I suppose the sun could be made to shine more brightly and sweetly. Go then, and if possible, save the Athenian people from themselves. But if you cannot do that, you must depart from this present evil and come back to me again, and we will try our endeavor to raise up the city again. And then you shall stay here till you have convinced the Athenians that there is no man here who is wiser than you. If you will do this, I shall be saved, and you will do what is best for yourself." Far from being discouraged, he encouraged me. In the aftermath, his followers continued to advocate for his ideas. Plato, who was only a teenager when Socrates was killed, would go on to write extensively about his teachings, preserving them for posterity. Many years later, the philosopher Cicero would praise him, saying Socrates, who is reputed to be the founder of the philosophical sect called Socratic, who was put to death by the unrighteous sentence of the Athenians, he may be compared to one of those divine geniuses that appear only for the instruction of the human race, and who leave an immortal memory of their doctrine among men. For certainly no one was more ready in speech or more acute in investigation than he was, who, though he examined and analyzed and sifted the truth, was never accused of teaching anything. And ultimately, Socrates remains an eternal symbol of courage, truth, and the pursuit of wisdom in a world that often seeks to silence those who dare to question authority. His death is a reminder that the road to enlightenment is often paved with persecution, and yet it is a persecution that must be endured in the name of truth. Thank you for watching this video about the life and legacy of Socrates. If you enjoyed this journey through history and philosophy, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, Great Minds and Leaders, and share it with your friends. Stay tuned for more inspiring stories of great thinkers and leaders who changed the world.